Hello! Alright, so first things first, this is a spoiler review. If you have not seen this movie, which I think you have, get the hell out, go watch this movie, and then come back. So obviously with that little short thing that I made, I'm sure you can tell I loved this movie. But I not only wanted to give it some time for you guys to go watch it so I can make a spoiler review, I also just wanted to go see the movie a couple more times and really just get what I love about this movie and also what I don't love into fruition and really just give it to you guys. So this is not going to be a very standard review, especially in my terms. Like, this is going to be kind of rambly, kind of just me talking about whatever I want. And you know what? If you're not here for it, then you probably shouldn't have subscribed to a channel called Rather Review Something. Spider-Man No Way Home is not only the third film in this Homecoming trilogy, but it definitely is Spider-Man Endgame if you want to go there. It is really just the culmination of all of the Spider-Man movies that have come before, except for Into the Spider-Verse, even though that movie is good as fuck. And oh my god, did y'all fucking see that trailer? Because And what I mean by this being Spider-Man Endgame, it's not just bringing back the villains, bringing back Tobey and Andrew, my back jokes, Paul Giamatti, Rhino jokes. That's not all this movie does. This movie really acts as Spider-Man Endgame and the third film in this Homecoming trilogy, and it does it so fucking well. Now, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. I love the first two Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. I don't love, but I also don't hate Spider-Man 3. It's really nostalgic for me, but it's also, I have to admit, not a great movie. The two Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films, they suck. But I love Andrew Garfield in that role. In Spider-Man Homecoming, I know it gets a lot of shit from Spider-Man fans. And yeah, there are things in that movie I don't love per se, but what works about that film really works. In Spider-Man Far From Home, hot take coming, it is my least favorite Spider-Man film. Mainly because Mysterio just being Syndrome from The Incredibles and the fact that it just feels like a Disney Channel bubblegum Spider-Man film. And this movie completely gets rid of that in the first 5 minutes. Not only with the reveal of Peter Parker's identity to the world, but also just the way that it was filmed. It was really an adrenaline rush of an opening. And I love the fact that this movie really gives Tom Holland consequences. Yeah, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, which, oh my god, thank goodness that he's back, cleared his legal troubles, but you know, he still has to deal with the court of public opinion, having to go back to high school with Hannibal Buress, you know. Bitches be shopping! But also, you walk in the hallway and everyone's just... And this movie really emphasizes what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, especially when it comes to going through consequences. And when he does do the thing with Doctor Strange, I love how Doctor Strange kind of puts him in his place, where it's like, not only did you just come to me before you went to the admissions office trying to get your friends into college, you're trying to live two different lives, and the longer you do it, the more dangerous it becomes. Because that's what these Spider-Man movies really emphasize. The balancing of Peter Parker and Spider-Man and the consequences and the tragedy that comes with that, but the will to just go through it and become Spider-Man and put the mask on is what makes this character so inspiring to me and countless others. And this movie really nailed that. I wanted to get that out of the way before I talk about the villains and Tobey and Andrew and all that stuff, because that is the main thing that made this movie work so well for me. Tom Holland goes through a lot in this movie. Aunt May gets killed, his identity gets revealed, and in the end, he loses everyone. He really has no friend in the world. He is on his own, and he still wears that fucking awesome suit at the end and becomes Spider-Man. And that is what I loved most about this movie. Yes, I loved all the villains. Yes, I loved Tobey and Andrew, and I loved all of that. But the main thing that made this film work was that. Now getting on to the fun things. The villains coming back are just as good as we all wanted. Alfred Molina is so good in this role, it's like he never fucking left. Jamie Foxx gets to bring a lot of charisma to the role of Electro this time around. And Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, holy shit. As iconic as he was in that first Spider-Man film, he brings his A+ game this time. Not only going from Norman Osborn to Green Goblin, but when he becomes Green Goblin, he's actually scary. He is genuinely sinister, he's diabolical, and I love that. Sandman and Lizard, though, I actually kind of liked Sandman a lot more than Lizard. Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman really brought it better, I guess, for as good as he was. You know, he really was just a CGI sand monster. Near the end, some of his lines get really awkward. Like the scene where he grabs Tom Holland's Peter and goes, "I don't care." It sounds just as awkward as me saying that. It sounds so just weird, but that's really just a nitpick. The Lizard, honestly, he was my least favorite, not only because he kind of looked like shit in this movie, which I also think he looked like shit in the first Amazing Spider-Man, but in this movie, he looks kind of bad. But that's probably why they weren't even marketed that much, and they really are just side villains, but those main three, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro, are incredible. And then getting to the Peter Parkers, first things first, Tom Holland is excellent in this movie. I've always thought he was a great actor, and especially in the Spider-Man movies, even Far From Home, he does a good job in them. And I think he really brings his A-plus game into this. And it's probably because of the fact that he gets to play with more emotions other than, ah! Like, he really gets vengeful in this film. I love that. Spider-Man getting vengeful and realizing that's not the path to go is so fun to see, and especially for Tom Holland. And oh boy, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. The moment they showed up on screen, tears. I'm not joking. I actually cried. Andrew Garfield getting a second chance and really showing off that he is so good as Spider-Man in this movie. The moment he shows up on screen, you can just see the passion in his eyes. You can see how excited he is, and it is so infectious, and I love it. I love it so much. And Tobey Maguire being kind of more of an older Peter Parker and kind of a little bit jaded, but also just like still hopeful, still sincere. That was so good to see. And I love the fact that they did not do what they did with the villains, kind of, and they let these Peter Parkers grow. They let them kind of, live longer, so when they did come back, they had stories to tell. Obviously, Andrew Garfield talking about how he became vengeful and bitter after Gwen Stacy's death, and Tobey Maguire saying that he did work out stuff with MJ and they found a way to make it work. That was so good to see, and just the level of respect that they had for those characters, the villains, and just the franchises alone. Even with Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man movies, it could have been very easy for them to just shit on those movies and make a ton of jokes about them, and they don't. And they definitely could have done it for Raimi's trilogy, but they don't. They show nothing but respect and fix the things that didn't work, but really showcase what worked and improve upon them. And oh my god, that scene where they were all on top of the Statue of Liberty and they were just talking. Like, not even just the action scene, which, by the way, is fucking awesome. Just the scene of them talking and, Tobey Maguire saying that he fought an alien made of black goo, and then Tom Holland saying, oh, my alien was purple, and then Andrew saying, oh, I fought a Russian guy in a, rhinoceros suit, and then Tobey Maguire saying he is amazing, because that is what Tobey Maguire would do. I was crying. I was loving it so much. And then obviously my favorite scene with all of them, not only that, but the scene where Tom Holland, he's on the rooftop of the school, and it's right after Aunt May's death, and he's becoming vengeful, and the Peters talk to them about how they felt the same way. Andrew Garfield with Gwen, Toby with Ben. And I love the fact that it's all kind of just culminating in, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, that scene I was crying like a fucking baby, but I loved that. And that's where this movie just totally became a great film. And not only that, a great Spider-Man film. The first half of this film I really like. Like, I really fucking like it. But the moment they show up, and I know it sounds like, oh, it's just nostalgia, or oh, it's just that. That's not the case at all. And just the fact that I got to see Toby, Andrew, and Tom share the screen. Now, I do want to talk about some issues that I had with the film. I do think that the first half, as good as it is, I think that's where the film's flaws kind of show. Not all of the humor lands, unfortunately, and some of it is kind of just like eye-rolling, honestly. And near the end, some stuff just kind of becomes a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, a device just shows up out of nowhere and does exactly what the script needs it to do in that moment. And Ned being able to, cast portals. Yeah, it's a little bit like, but it doesn't take away from the experience, and it doesn't take away from what works so well about this film. And oh my god, I almost forgot to mention when Andrew saved MJ. I feel like half this review has just been me going, it's because it's that good. So I want to go ahead and get the rating out of the way. This is the highest in 808s and great I can ever give a film. And one thing I want to say real quick, this is really just personal, but I just want to say thank you so much to Sam Raimi, to Mark Webb, to Amy Pascal, to Avi Arad, to Stan Lee himself, to John Watts, to Kevin Feige, to Tom Holland, to Toby, Andrew, all of them. Thank you so much for making these films that were so crucial to my childhood. And then all of that culminating to this film, even though there were a lot of hiccups along the way, all of it was worth it, because this film was really not only the film that I needed, but this is also just the film that I'm always going to remember. As great as Infinity War was, and also as great as Endgame was, this is the film that I'm always going to remember. I'm always going to remember being there on Thursday night, hearing the audience cheer for Andrew and Toby showing up, me being part of that, and just all of this, and how great it works. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. If you're here near the end, I applaud you. You watched probably a 10-minute video of an 18-year-old just geeking out about Spider-Man, and thank you. Well, that concludes this video. I hope you had fun reviewing stuff with me. I had fun reviewing stuff with you. And if you have not seen this movie...
Are you fucking dumb?
Go see this movie. Go see this movie now. It is so, so, so great. And again, I can't say it enough, but thank you. Thank you, Spider-Man.